Okay, thanks Michael, thanks Dr. Litz. Hi all, my name is Marko Kärkkäinen and I'm a lead commercialization and collaboration in Clewat Limited. Thanks for having me on this important event today. At Clewat, we take care of the development of nature on a daily basis, and our vision is to make our seas non-plastic with a marine cleaning device developed by our innovator, Mr. Johannes Myllykoski. After the oil disaster in the Gulf of Mexico in 2010, he realized that there are still not good enough solutions to tackle the environmental problems on the sea. He wanted to influence and make a device that collects oil properly. But at the same time, he realized that the same system, same innovation can collect in micro and macroplastic and also harmful vegetation. Our headquarters and workshop in Kokkola, western part of Finland, and sales and administration here in Helsinki, and I also have an international operation in Singapore. If we continue littering at the current pace, there will be more plastic garbage in our seas by 2050 than fish. Even if people stop polluting oceans, there are already plenty of to do. There is also so much, hundreds of millions tons of plastic everywhere in the world. What is so special about our system? We can collect as little as 0.5 millimeter particles, and this opens opportunity to deeper research together with our partner universities. Today's subject is a floating plastic, marine or ocean plastic, whatever you want to call it. And that's also our focus at the moment in North America, South America, and also in Asia. This is our newest vessel, working this summer in Helsinki and also Kokkola in the Finnish cities, collecting trash, harmful vegetation and algae. Of course, the problem here in Northern Europe is not the same than if you're comparing in Asian countries where the problem is huge. Our innovation is based on the utilization of water flow, making it possible to obtain high power with a small amount of energy. The vessel used the booms in the front to collect plastic debris, oil and harmful vegetation at the opening, where the flow of water is regulated so that various debris and contaminants get to ships, conveyor and further sorted in the tanks. It's very highly escapable, and we can use the adjusting the length of booms, or we can use these vessels like a fleet. One vessel can collect up to 200 cubic meters per hour. But in order to overcome hurdles in plastic reduction, collaboration is the key. If we build up the value chain and companies, governments and people work together, we can pool research materials and begin recycle an industrial amount of plastic waste. This is an important thing because there's a lot of application at the moment, but they are not industrial case. This is nice that there is a lot of awareness is raising that people are collecting plastic on the beaches and the harbors and living areas. And we will announce a bunch of agreements globally very soon. There's a lot of valuable plastic what we can use in the fashion industry. And non-recyclable plastic we can use in the bioreactors and different kind of other systems. And our advantage, we can collect up to 200 cubic meters per hour in one vessel, and so small particle 0.5, and the flow-based technology does not cause mechanical stress on water bodies. There is no negative environmental impact. And the one vessel is multi-purpose. One vessel can collect plastic, harmful vegetation and oil spills. Customers and market. Our main customers are municipalities, governments, ports, shipyards, global hotel chains, and also we have a lot of collaboration with NGOs. Clewat solutions have a very large and huge growing market. The global technology market globally is $1,200 billion US annually by US Department of Commerce. So there is a lot of space to do, and there is so much different kind of plastic floating on the seas that everybody who can and want to do this job have a space to work. Our own estimated that the market for our products taken in a nutshell is currently around $8.5 million US. Our business model is selling a clean of marine areas and response readiness as a service. One vessel can operate with multiple materials. Selling the equipment to other contractors or operators or agencies. Selling the collected material to the value chains. This is one example. We are going to start in Cebu city in Philippines. It's a good example that you need the collaboration. We contacted all the level in the government officials. We connected with the universities. We connected with the NGOs. And that we can secure that we can raise up awareness. We can set up training. We collected the materials. We take care of the separation. And we create the value chain. And our diverse management team works in brutal, honest, and wide equality where best ideas always win, but operational responsibilities are clearly defined. Our team is led by Janne Saarikko, an experienced senior investment banker turned serial entrepreneur who has founded a listed company and been the board of Global Success Mobile Services. The team is managed a CEO by Resynergi, who is a former Olympic athlete and a banking background also. Johannes Myllykoski is a father of the company. He's an innovator located in Kokkola. And that's why we all are so excited because he has every day so fantastic ideas. But of course, we have to sometimes say to him to stop, and because I have to formalize that. Hannu Mäkelä, our COO, is a serial entrepreneur as well. He has set up big gyms all over the Europe, more than 1,000. And we take very seriously United Nations, these SDGs, and we are the member of Global Partnership for Marine Litter, GPML, life below water, clean water and sanitation, affordable clean energy, sustainable cities and communities, partnerships to achieve the goal. And we take that really seriously. I have to say that I started last year studying a Hanken Business School in Finland about this issue. And it's opened my eyes that this is a clearly big issue that you can take all the stakeholders with you when you want to create something sustainable business models. I already mentioned about the research. We at Clewat believe that the combination of science, innovation and legislation and private and public partnership are the key for the long-term prevention and stopping plastic pollution reaching the oceans. Several cooperation project studies are going already globally, mainly in Asia, but also in Northern and Middle Europe, and pretty soon in Central America. What we are looking for? We are looking for channel partners, projects together with the municipalities, research collaboration with the universities, and also investment are welcome. We are still beginning our journey, so we're looking forward corporate partners who can support our big project in South America, also in Asia. And please do not hesitate to contact. Our amazing experienced team are ready to help. And I want to thank you for this opportunity to speak. And I already see huge potential to collaborate with the other speakers as well. Thank you.
Marco, thank you. That was a great presentation. And I know that you and Brian at Resynergi are already working on opportunities together. And from our discussion on Tuesday, the run through, it looked like there were great opportunities with Matthias as well. So yes. We love the international collaboration aspect. It's one of the things that we are proudest of every month. So without any further ado, we work from the furthest away to the next furthest away to the closest, which is usually one of our members. Matthias, we're going to turn over to you and your company in Switzerland and the great work you're doing around the world.
Thank you, Michael. Let me just pull up the presentation. Can you see it?
Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the introduction, and I welcome you to this presentation. My name is Matthias. I'm Director of Partnerships at Tide Ocean. And we were found for one reason. Our world faces a huge problem, but we have the solution. We are upcycling ocean-bound plastic waste so that brands can then use it for their new sustainable products. How does this solution look like? We have built up a global supply chain for ocean-bound plastic. We are sourcing the plastic on 5 islands in the Andaman Sea, where it gets collected through a network of fishermen. It is then brought to a social enterprise in Ranong. This social enterprise is implemented in partnership with a Swiss nonprofit called the Jan and Oskar Foundation. And there the plastic gets sorted, washed, shredded before it is then shipped to Switzerland. And here the innovation takes place. You have to imagine this plastic was exposed to harsh conditions, UV rays, salt water, sand, and thus has become very brittle and crumbly. But we found a way to repair that damage. In a close partnership with the University of Applied Sciences in Switzerland, we have developed a method to repair that damage and to give that plastic waste a second life as a raw material. This process is strictly mechanical, which means that there are no chemicals added and also there's no virgin plastic mixed in. So Tide Ocean material is and will always be 100% ocean-bound plastic. We're very proud that we have already garnered some recognition. We've been awarded, for example, with the Materialika Award. This is a German design and technology award. We have also won the Swiss Plastics Award. We've won the Hong Kong International Business Award. And we have been part of the first Global Innovation Challenge hosted by the UNOPS. We have one goal. We want to become the #1 trusted label for ocean-bound plastic. For that, we have to build a strong brand which stands for authenticity and transparency. Our whole business is built in a way to maximize the positive impact along every step of the supply chain. And there are 3 different areas of impact. The product impact. Tide does, as I before mentioned, Tide does not process any virgin and non-ocean-bound plastics. There has been numerous studies to show that recycling saves energy and reduces CO2 emissions. Did you know that you can save up to 80% greenhouse gas emissions just by replacing virgin PET with recycled PET? We, of course, with our products help to create the circular economy, and we adhere to the cradle-to-cradle principle, which means that Tide Ocean material can be recycled again. The social impact. Together with our partner organizations, we create long-lasting jobs. We provide job training, we pay fair wages, and we comply to international standards, such as, for example, the Global Recycling Standard, which we are being audited for at the moment. The environmental impact. We help to restore water and coastal habitats by removing the plastic. We organize community beach cleanups along on the side to our professional collection activities. This is a way for us to engage local communities. We help to create resilient, locally run waste management infrastructure. We do all our compounding with solar energy, and we are offsetting all our transports, the carbon emissions from all our transports. As you might have guessed, we also commit ourselves to the Sustainable Development Goals by the UN. These are the 4 goals that we focus on and that we feel that we have the most impact on. But what does our business look like? What are we selling? These are our products. The Tide granules are used for plastic injection. The Tide yarn is made for high-quality polyester textiles. And the Tide filament can be used for 3D printing. We are a business-to-business company, which means that brands use our material to create their products. And these are three examples. There's a line of jewelry by Florida brand Jason Hyde. Then there's a watch, a Swiss watch made by Luminox in collaboration with the survivalist Bear Grylls. Here the watch band as well as the case and the bezel are made from our material. And on the right is the just recently launched bracelet set by Dallas-based lifestyle brand Purely Blue. Watches and jewelry are great because we can use them to show that our material meets the highest requirements. But of course, volume-wise, they're not as interesting to us, which is why we are especially excited about this new product. It is a modular system of spot floors. With these tiles, you can build up very quickly and easily a spot floor, and these are made of our material. Here, that's just an example of a basketball court. This product will be launched very soon, and the company is called Next Grip. So in short, Tide gives plastic waste a value. And but we're selling much more than granules. We're selling a good quality product and a convincing story. And there's great demand for that, I'm happy to say. So in our first year, we have already processed 150 tons of plastic. We have launched, as shown before, the first product. And this is what the pipeline looks like. There are currently 100 brands developing close to 200 products with an estimated volume of 1,000 tons. So it was a great start, but of course, this is only the beginning. We have bigger ambitions. Our goal is to process 80,000 tons per year, which roughly amounts to 1% of the annual pollution that happens every year in the ocean. To do that, we need to scale up, we need to expand sourcing, we need to increase sales activities and create a strong brand awareness. And there's certain things we need for that. We are currently raising funds, so we're looking for investors. If you are interested, if you have any questions, I'm happy to talk and provide more info on request. We're also always looking for partners in the value chain, for example, recyclers, logistical partners, and also strategic partners, like, for example, government agencies or NGOs. Then publicity is a thing we need because, as I said, we need to raise our profile. We need to spread the word and raise awareness about this issue and about our solution. And of course, always welcome more brands that want to use our material to create their products. And with this, I thank you for listening, and I'm happy to answer your questions in the Q&A session later. Thank you.
Matthias, that was a great presentation. Both of you guys have set the bar very high for Brian now. And you both come in under 10 minutes, so you're giving the moderator an opportunity to ask more questions of you. So great presentation. Thanks for hitting the SDGs, what you need. I hope some of the people in this audience will be able to help you, and Marco as well. So Brian, you're our member company, one that we've always been very passionate about because what you're doing, we all know that cleaning up plastic is important. So over to you to present on Resynergi.
Great, yes. Thank you so much. Brian Bauer, CEO and co-founder of Resynergi. We are, like you said, looking to work with Clewat and complement very well what Matthias is doing. So what we will talk about today is how we create value with ocean plastics and other waste plastics, and kind of teaming with land-based and ocean-based plastics by creating value, we're able to really drive cleanup efforts. So if we can make that profitable, it's wonderful. So what we do is we make systems that take waste plastic and convert that into valuable fuels as well as other hydrocarbon products. And we are very scalable. So we can be very compact. And what that allows us to do is to profitably scale at any level, anywhere in the world. So we can go on barges, we can go on islands, and so forth. The way we do it is we chip things, much like Matthias's technology, but then it's very different. Where he's mechanical, we're thermal catalytic. So we actually do some chemical processing. We use microwave to heat the plastic chips, and then those chips become very quickly gasified, and then we condense that. So when we condense it down, it becomes very low sulfur fuel. So this is excellent for shipping to clean the greenhouse gas emissions from shipping fuel, as well as road and other solutions. So that's one part of what we do. That's a primary product we have today. We are also using different catalysts and providing feedstock for remaking plastic. So that's lighter fuels or lighter liquids, and we can make naphtha and partners turn that into plastics, virgin plastics. So the next slide. One of our advantages is that we're all electric. So we use solar. To date, we've used mostly solar energy to drive the system. The other huge advantage is we're modular and can be very compact. Because we use a microwave, we're very, very fast processing versus other pyrolysis systems. And we're able to be 1/5 the size reactor of other systems like this. So we can go on ships, like I mentioned, we can go on islands, and we'll talk about an island project. But then we can also scale much like Tesla in a horizontal fashion, where you just multiply multiple modules next to each other on land as necessary. The economics, I won't go through this in detail. This differs by area, but it seems to track real well. Like the higher the gas, the higher the the higher the fuel or diesel, gasoline, whatever it is, the higher the labor expense. And in any case, we're typically 2 to 4 year payback on the equipment, which is excellent for this type of thing when you compare to solar and other energies. Some places in the world, they pay you to take plastic, and that's typical here in the US, where the landfill of plastic is so expensive. This next slide, we talk real briefly about our partners. Again, we're doing everything from, if you look at a watershed, a lot of the plastics that go into the ocean are coming from the rivers. So we're partnering with river partners as well as land and ocean to make sure that we get things collected and, again, profitably driven to be collected before it gets in the rivers and then before it gets into the ocean. Where we are today is we're doing a pilot here at the Recology site in California, in Santa Rosa, California. And we do post-consumer waste coming from Recology and post-industrial from a number of companies that make plastic products. And then working with ocean plastic company OVI, which I'll mention more. And then because California is a special case and that we have so many fires, there's a lot of drive to combine biomass with the plastic, and there's actually some interesting outputs to that. So that's on the input sides, and the way to think of us is we're in between making that and products, and we're very, very clean. So the greenhouse gases that we emit are far, far less, about 60% less than if you were to drill out of the ground. So incrementally, it's a phenomenal way of cleaning plastic. So our outputs are, right now, as I mentioned, diesel is our primary product, but we're working with a number of players in the Alliance to End Plastic Waste, 2 of the largest chemical companies in the world, which you'll hear announcements on soon, that take it to lighter naphtha and then converts that into pure plastic. And that pure plastic is good for food grade products and high tolerance plastic, where you can't just typically take mechanical, traditional recycled product. And then also very exciting is in the works is hydrogen. So we have a couple RFPs and some research work going on post-reforming. So as I mentioned, the partner we have right now for cleaning the oceans is pretty low tech, and we're looking at other higher tech partners coming in, with, like working with Clewat and others. But OVI, they've pulled out 200 tons roughly this year of plastic, and we're working to granulate that and the feasibility of the different nets. There's some nylon in there, some other things. The plastics we like are polypropylene and polyethylene, and it looks like from our analysis, a good 90+% of that is very easy for us to process. The project, sort of a key project here, is a land-based and ocean-based collection in the Big Island of Hawaii with another partner company in BlueTech called Trevi Systems. Because it's so expensive, it's difficult to be profitable, purely profitable in business sense, collecting ocean plastic and making it product. But when you combine that with typically land-filled plastics or land-based plastics, it can subsidize and really drive that ocean cleaning economy. So what we're doing in a nutshell is we're taking ocean plastic and landfill plastic, and this, again, in the future, this can be on a barge. Initially, we'll be on land, but this is a nice circle economy example where there's a lot of saline water cleaning that happens by Trevi Systems, and they provide potable water. They need a lot of heat, and we provide a lot of waste heat from our system. As we process the plastic, we need clean plastic, so we need the salt, a lot of the salt out of the system. So they help with that clean water to clean the plastic, and then we provide the plastic naphtha for plastic recycling, or the gases for running the generator and diesel for running generators as electricity is needed on the island. And again, this is much cleaner, 60% less production than traditional diesel generation. So anyway, this is a nice example, maybe more complex than others, but it's a big project we're looking at on the island. A really nice thing that's happening here that helped drive a lot of all of us are doing is something called plastic credits. Now, carbon credits we're familiar with, again, like we're 60% reduction in the production of fuels. But plastics, the Ellen MacArthur Foundation is looking at the way people recycle plastic, and as much as they do, that will provide additional credits and making something even more profitable that is already profitable. Our 5-year vision is to do 2,000 systems, and if we do that, that only represents about 1% of the total opportunity, as the other guys have mentioned. There's a huge opportunity to clean plastic and waste plastic in general in the world. What we're looking for is, in this group and others around the world, partner companies like the chemical companies that we're working with, as well as offtake customers. We have small and larger offtake people we're working with, like shipping companies, and then more ocean cleanup project partners that will bring plastic to us. Again, as Marco mentioned, it's such a huge opportunity and a huge amount of plastic. There's lots of different ways to bring that in. The advantage of working with Resynergi, again, is we're very fast. We're very fast to turn up because we can go right into an existing location, a barge or a garage, and then we can scale up to any effective size, scale effectively to any size. So, and we're profitable at all stages above 5 tons per day. Currently, we're seeking $10 million in Series B, and behind that, with operating companies, we have a number of private equity companies looking at the $100 to $200 million large operations right behind that Series B. But right now, we want to close that Series B and scale the already pilot-proven footprint that we have with our 1 ton per day system. So with that, I just want to summarize. Again, I agree with the others on the Sustainable Development Goals. We follow a lot of the same ones as Clewat and these here. Thank you for your time, and happy to entertain questions. Thanks.
Wow, great presentation. 3 great presentations. Brian, you did us proud. All 3 of you did a great job. And with that, Liz, I'm going to hand it over to you to be our moderator. And I think it's great that we're trying to work with Sacramento state government, and you're in Sacramento, you're working with all the people up there, you know the pulse of the state. And so I think it's really interesting for you to help us understand these technologies and others that we can help find. How do they work with the state of California? How do we work together to clean up that ocean and create that circular economy? I'll ask you that question and then let you start adding questions.
I appreciate that introduction, and I am going to punt on that question because that is precisely what we hope to learn and explore, and input from stakeholders and industry partners will help the state of California figure out where the barriers and opportunities exist. So that actually gets directly, Michael, to my first question, which I'll pose in a moment, but just remind meeting participants that please do add your own questions into the chat. I will be looking at that and adding those into the dialogue. But let me pose my first question, passing Michael's question to me straight on to the panelists. You each have elected to operate, have business operations as well as business headquarters in particular jurisdictions around the world. And I'm curious if you could speak to if those choices have been made based on particular sort of enabling conditions for business enterprise in particular geographies, and or if you have encountered unexpected barriers to business operations and expansion based on the geographies that you're working in. So I'll turn it first to Matthias with Tide Ocean. You have operations in Southeast Asia and are headquartered in Switzerland. I wonder if you might comment on that question.
Yes, well, we started off buying up flakes from different sources. Really quickly realized that this industry is not always that transparent, and so we wanted to be able to really know where each and every piece of plastic was collected from, and that's when we decided that it would be smart to have our own collection operation. And so we had the luck to just meet the Jan and Oscar Foundation, who were already building up a operation like this in Thailand, and we're looking for partners to do something with that plastic and to take it from them and turn it into actual valuable material. And so that's how the Thailand collection came into reality. But of course, it might seem strange that we from Switzerland are concerning ourselves with ocean plastic. I can understand that this might raise a question, but it's a problem that concerns all of us, and so we decided we need to act.
Great, thank you. So a need to have sort of transparency and somewhat of control over the supply chain and value that you're putting into plastic. So Brian, maybe, you are operating out of California, but also with partners in Hawaii and beyond. Are there particular enabling factors and or barriers here in California, apropos of Michael's question to me?
I will do that in two parts, one international and then come back to California. And the reason why is because Marco and I are looking at projects in a number of countries in Southeast Asia. And one of the super challenges there is you can start building a project and go through a lot of logistics and so forth, and unknown, say, government taxes, we'll call it, will come up and will kind of kill the project when you have these expenses that are above and beyond what are expected. So working with the governments that don't necessarily have really clear rules and expenses that may come up, that's something that some of our teammates, people on our outreaching group putting projects together, they run into that in the past, and they brought that experience forward. So working with Marco and others, one of the beauties of being modular is you can start small and not have to run into that the same way. So back to California, which is near and dear. Yeah, there's two things. The California traditionally has looked at recycling in a really, really pure way. Like, let's 100% recycle everything. And sort of as pure as possible. But right now we're like recycling less than 10% of our plastics. And so they're realizing is things like conversion technology. So when we convert into diesel fuel, for example, even though we're much cleaner than drilling out of the ground, they have been turning away from that in the past. But there's been new efforts by CalRecycle and others to consider conversion as complementary to mechanical and other conversions or other recycling. So we look to get help from the states and re-looking at those policies and those pathways for diesel fuel. I mean, we're much cleaner. Like, you do a vapor lock system on a gas station, that's going to help the environment, but it's a small increment. It's kind of like what we're doing here. We're cleaning up the greenhouse gases, and even though it's not getting rid of diesel fuel or fossil fuels and engines, it's incrementally really nice improvement. So we think this evolution is important over time, as well as down the road, hydrogen technology. So we have a nice roadmap for that. The second thing in California is, I guess it's very much related to what I just said, is working with air quality management districts. And it's just that topic. Let's look at the overall life cycle analysis and how we can do a little bit now with all those diesel engines out there that aren't going away tomorrow. Let's clean that up a bit, and we go to hydrogen and other things later. Meanwhile, cleaning all the ocean plastic that's near and dear to Hawaii and California at the same time as doing the land.
Great, thank you. And I'll turn it over to Marco if he has anything to add to this question, but also layer on a question that came in from the audience with a focus on companies in Europe and the US today in today's presentations. Sue is wondering if these companies are also looking at South America for any of your business ventures, with so many ocean plastic issues in those countries as well. So Marco, let you sort of pile on first.
Yeah, don't give me time to speak, because I'm like a little kid. I have been 30 years in the waste management and recycle business, and 1 year ocean plastics, and this is like the problem is huge. It's problematic. There is so many governments, and there's stakeholders, and who take care of the plastic, who take care of the organic material. So there's plenty of work to do. About the Americas, we have started a discussion and negotiation in Guyana and also Nicaragua. And I'm looking forward to get some very positive feedback very soon. And our challenge is not to get the materials to the value chain. Our problem is now to get enough fund to start it. So all those projects what we have already discussed. So there's plenty of work to do. And with what Brian said, is that it's quite difficult to work with the governments. And I have been doing that 12 years in Asia. I also lead a waste to value center in Singapore. One of our main focus was that we raise awareness about the regulations and how the governments, how they have to develop those, and what kind of opportunities, what kind of companies or solutions are available on the market.
Great, thank you, Marco. So turning to another question that has come in for both you and Matthias. These are great examples of the reuse of plastics. And the question is, how do we ensure that the recycled plastic does not make its way back into the ocean? How are we not just deferring this to a future problem? So, Matthias, do you want to pile on there first?
Yeah, that's a great question. one way to do that for us, for example, is to really think about where it makes sense to use their material. And if a brand gets in contact and asks us to make a product from our plastic, we always ask what their ideas to what happens to the product when they reach the end of life. And so usually we don't like to do single-use products, for example, with our plastic, because then we can just pick it up again 2 years later at the same beach. So we strongly advise to really think about creating long-lasting and durable products. As I have mentioned, we've built watches, for example, and those usually don't get thrown away. And so that's one way to do it. But of course, with doing that, as I said, it's also really important that we try to build up this waste management infrastructure. I'm sorry, to really solve the problem and turn off the tap on the plastic pollution.
Thank you, Marco. Is there anything you would add to that question?
That's a huge question, and it's also related geography. In Asia, typically in Indonesia, and they can't think about how they prevent the plastic use, because the poor people are using the everyday plastic. They have a tea bag, they drink tea in a plastic bag. So I think, like Finland, where I come from, we have to lead the way. We have a lot of different companies who have started biopolymers, and it's like I say in my presentation, it's a collaboration. And there is enough plastic for us forever to clean up, even you stop to use plastic today. So I'm the wrong person to answer that.
Well, thank you nonetheless for your answer. Brian, I'm going to turn it to you first for this next question. Can these technologies be able to improve power generation for the state or jurisdictions in order to meet clean energy demands?
Yes, so to be a completely fair answer, the cleanest would be to go or wind or solar. Again, we would be incrementally better improving the greenhouse gas situation in places where they're using fossil fuels to make electricity. And for internal combustion engine use, which is used all over the place, that we help in that way. But for electricity, it's just in that particular instance. Now, just a side note, I didn't mention that we do a lot of cogeneration as well. So we'll have, maybe 70–80% of what we produce is liquid, and then 20% or so will be syngas. And we take that syngas and turn it back into electricity to drive about half of the electricity needs of our systems. So it's a pretty closed loop in that way. But yeah, so we can't solve everything there. When we do produce hydrogen, that'll be a very, very clean use of fuel hydrogen. We'll have maybe slightly higher greenhouse gas emissions than we have now, because we're just an extra step. But it's a very clean use of the product in that case. So there'll be more data going forward. So we'd love to work with Ocean Trust, Ocean Science, do that.
You would be happy to follow up. So questions still coming in. Thank you. And please do type your questions into the chat. I see a hand raised, and I'm going to figure out how to do that in just a moment. But turning to a question for Marco, in terms of oil spill response, how do you get cued into where the spill is, and how quickly can you deploy to the area? Do you see this as a global capability?
Yes, that we have built up this organization. One good example was that when this Siberian Russian area, they have this oil catastrophe for diesel oil. We promised to the Russian government that our vessel is ready and our crew is ready for 20 hours to pick up in Kokkola airport. And that case was exactly for us because it was diesel oil, very light oil, and the others are brushing the oil and we are sucking gently. So our system was the best solution for that, but then the Russian government make a decision that they don't let any foreigner come to the area. So we have already 1 or 2 vessel capacity to respond immediately. But of course, on the future, we have to build up the real fleet to respond globally this problem.
Great, thank you so much. Interesting to see sort of co-benefits of these new technologies. So I'm just looking at these questions, and I'll open this question to whoever wants to answer from the group. How do you see pyrolysis as a tool being different than in incineration, which is often equated as being the same? Brian, I see you nodding vigorously, please.
This is such an important question to ask because they are very, very different. So the temperatures that we run at are much lower than incineration, of course, but more importantly is the output. So it's so important to look at the science of this and looking at, again, the full life cycle analysis of what the greenhouse gases are and other gases. So the dioxins are very dangerous with incineration, and the technology is getting better. They're cleaning up more all the time, but they're completely different from a combustion standpoint because we use no oxygen. What we do is we purge with nitrogen, and even the pyrolysis of biomass is different than the pyrolysis of plastic. So we're able to virtually 100% purge with nitrogen and keep all the oxygen out, so there's zero combustion. With biomass, they have like a secondary stage where they actually do a reduction where they do some burning. But even the biomass is cleaner than a straight ahead incineration of biomass pyrolysis. So yeah, there's definitely gradations here, and it's all about looking at the science and looking at the life cycle analysis. That's so important.
Thanks.
One of my favorite questions. Yeah.
Thanks for that, Brian. Matthias or Marco, please let me know if you want to pile on to any of these. Let's turn now for the next couple of questions back to sort of business model and finance opportunities. And a question first to Brian is, are there opportunities to use structured finance in the US to fund your projects if there are long-term buyer contracts?
Say it again, what are the different ways of funding this? Or
opportunities to use structured finance to fund projects through long-term sort of buyer contracts.
Yeah, so there has been a huge amount of interest in financing this in a number of ways. Private equity firms, there's a lot of capital out there, and there's only so much you can put in the stock market. And so there's venture debt that people are super interested in providing. And then there's municipal bonds as well. What they're looking for is when we have these first few pilots actually running well, there's a good deal of money out there to fuel this. So that's why I mentioned before the private equity firms that are looking at building operating companies, they're right on the heels of our Series B. There's a great number of ways of doing that.
And Matthias and Marco, I might invite you to sort of add on to this discussion thread with either thoughts of further expansion of the comments you already made about sort of the underlying business model, and particularly with an eye to the model that you think will be most effective for expansion of your operations into a global enterprise potentially.
Yeah, if I can start, especially in Asia, we need like a corporate partners or governments or some association to fund our project, because we have to present to local governments or business people that there is a business behind, because nowadays the plastic in the rivers or trash in the rivers, in the oceans, it doesn't belong to anybody. and infrastructure is not so ready that it's very complicated to sorting out if you are collecting industrial level of the trash in the oceans or rivers. So that we are building up at that. In that point, we need strong partners, and we have found some, and we are looking for more. And like I already see, together with Brian and Matthias, we 3 companies can work together and find, some investors to back up our operations. There's a lot of work to do. Only in Asia, but not. Also, I was surprised. One study a couple months back showed that there's a plastic on the rivers in Belgium and Netherlands as well. So, and the microplastic especially. In Finland, we don't have a solvable plastic on the ocean or rivers, but we have a lot of microplastic. And that project, what we did in summer in Helsinki, it's a characteristical way I can say that in 1 hour in Philippines, in Manila, we can collect in same amount of trash that we collect in 1 summer in 6 months or 4 months in Helsinki area. But also a hot topic at the moment in Helsinki is that the government is collecting the snow because there's heavy snowstorm here in last week and this week as well, and they put to the ocean, and there is no any solution how they separated trash or microplastic, and we have a solution for that.
Matthias.
Yes, very interesting what Marco was talking about. So there's a couple of possibilities, I think, or aspects to this question. As Brian said, it is quite pricey and expensive to collect ocean plastic, and especially it depends on how you do it. But if you just gather whatever you find and then have to sort it, that gets really cost intensive. And so we have to think about how to finance the whole collection. We were always thinking about or talking about models to find ways to kind of subsidize that, because maybe communities have an interest in having their beach cleaned up, like marinas maybe have an interest in having their waterways cleaned up, and so maybe that could be one way to just subsidize the collection point, because we can market our product, but we still have to compete with virgin plastic, and so we need to find ways to get more compatible there. And for us, but also for us, you were also asking about how we would expand and scale up, and I think that's like a different question. So for us, one possibility in the short term would be to just expand in Thailand. That's quite easily done. We already have connections there. We can do that. But of course, if we want to go globally, for us to replicate this exact system everywhere would be a lot of work, and that's why we also are looking into licensing models and maybe finding partners that could, once we have that label established, as I mentioned, we want to become the #1 trusted label for ocean-bound plastic. Once that reputation is there, we can start licensing this label and find partners who replicate what we do all over the world, and that's would be for us would be one option.
And I'd like to actually sort of pick up on some of the social impact elements of being that trusted #1 brand, and layer on a piece to this conversation that will then be a question to you all, just sort of leaning into the Sustainable Development Goals internationally, and also here in California, the state is prioritizing, which they will admit is long overdue, consideration of sort of the environmental justice and equity dimensions of sustainable business enterprise. whether that's in the form of high quality jobs or contributions to local environments and ecosystem service benefits to disadvantaged communities. I wonder if you might speak to your company's sort of philosophy and thought process on some of these more sort of social dimensions of sustainable enterprise.
Yeah, that's very, very dear to us. And I think the most important thing there is to really have good partnerships. Again, the same argument. But we found in Thailand we found one trusted partner with the Jan and Oscar Foundation, and we know we know they make sure they create jobs that last, that pay fair. We help them to do that. What I didn't mention before is the fishermen who are collecting the plastic for us. Most of them belong to this ethnic minority called the Moken. These are it's a people of semi-nomadic people. They used to live on their long-tail boats and mostly spend most of their time on the water fishing. But due to political pressure and overfishing, that lifestyle is not longer available to them. And so for us, this was a way to create new jobs, new livelihoods, ways to make their livelihood. And so that's really important to us, even though it means that our material is a bit more expensive than the competition. But that's a value that we think has its price and needs to have its price, and people should know about that.
So Liv, I was going to say also with respect to California, we would love, we have this initiative to set up in all the major ports, San Diego, LA, Long Beach, Oakland, Stockton. And it just happens to be the disadvantaged neighborhoods are very near those locations. So we look forward to scaling in those locations soon. We have some really good partners there. So we have some disadvantagedness in the US as well. We can address it.
Absolutely. And I see Michael here, which means that my time is running down. But there's one question that has come in that I would just like to use as a final question, because I love the question. What solutions do you see as leveling the playing field in terms of recycled feedstock versus virgin feedstock? Is it going to require an equivalent to a carbon tax or some other legislative or top-down regulatory solution? Final comments on that.
A lot of what we've been doing is focusing on the technology and tracking what is happening in the legislative side of things, and sort of somewhat hoping some of the larger players will address some of that. But we're definitely providing our industry inputs into that. And the issue is that it's so much less expensive just to make plastic from scratch than it is to recycle. And yeah, that's a pretty heavy political issue. Anybody else want to?
Yes. Sorry, Brian.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Why is virgin plastic that cheap? It's just because the market is distorted. If your plastic ends up polluting an ocean, there's no price for that, and that should be in its price, and then virgin plastic wouldn't be as cheap anymore. And I think there needs to be some kind of system to really put in those externalized costs into the market. However that system would look like.
Matthias, I think we can really learn from Europe, because I think you guys think through these issues much more than we do, and we're open to it for sure. And California is a leader too in the U.S., but we are open and listening. Yeah.
Yep.
And Michael, I will pass it back over to you at this point, and just.
I agree both opinion, and I'm from Finland, and in Finland everything is quite good organized in talking about plastic recycling, but I live in Asia, so it's quite confusing for me, but I do my best to collect in as much we can. and collaborate with these guys. Thanks.
Thank you, Marco. And I've learned so much from all of you. I'll just add my thanks to you for your presentations today and engaging in this discussion. Over to you, Michael.
Well, thank you, Liz. Thank you for your presentation before and for moderating. Great job. Matthias and Marco, our European colleagues in this endeavor and journey, and Brian, for you and all of you, the work you're doing is incredibly important, and we want to find ways to work together. And that is really the underlying premise of every one of our monthly meetings. Hopefully we'll get some of you to come back in February 18th for anti-biofouling. We have a New Zealand company, a US company, and we're looking for our third company right now. March 18th will be water and wastewater in the circular economy. And then we have a couple of people on the webinar from NASA as well. And we're hoping that the 18th of April, water, space, and the circular economy in conjunction with NASA. And every month there'll be another important topic, and we'll be looking for innovative companies around the world and trying to link them up with people they need and should be working with around the world. Please don't forget BlueTech Week. Put it on your calendar, November 15 through 19, 2021. And for all of you speakers, if we don't see you before, i.e. because of COVID, we hope that you will participate in our virtual BlueTech Week in later this year. I wish if all of you could do me one favor, if you would all put your cameras on, I would like to say goodbye jointly to Melissa Fishel. Melissa has been a big part of this organization for the last 3 years, and we're a small, mighty group. So please, all of you, put your camera on and help me. We're going to wave, and we're going to take a picture of all of you. We had at one point 60 people. There's still 44 of you. You know, bear with me for just a minute. Come on, show your faces, and we'll take a picture and we'll wave to Melissa. So come on, let's put as many as possible. Tamara, do you mind taking the picture when it comes up?
My pleasure.
All right, so I see only 9, but hopefully you've seen more people. Again, for our speakers, Liz, thank you. For our members that are here, for all of the attendees from around the world, please join us. Please tell your friends. And Melissa, for you, thank you so very much. Please, one hand up, clap, whatever you want to do. Melissa, thank you so much. And with that, I'm going to call it to an end. Thanks to all of you. Hopefully you'll come back soon. Hopefully we'll stay in touch. I know that Brian, you and I have some follow-up because of some ideas I have for you, even learning recently. So Liz, again, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Bye-bye.